Hi, and welcome to Sixcess Stories. We are your hosts, Christina Gent.
And Eric Ozarowski.
And this is where we get to share real conversations with the 6 Degrees community all about life, leadership, and the power of meaningful connections. Today, we have the ultimate yes man who's a super grounded sounding board for those in need of support and also a huge movie buff. So get this guy on your trivia team ASAP. It's Dan DeBacco, who's a real estate advisor on the Dream Homes team.
In this conversation with Dan, we talk about his journey into being more emotionally intelligent and his recent experience of NLP training. He's about halfway through the first wave of that. We get into the impact that journey and that some of this self-awareness work has had on his understanding of the root of some of his behaviors and some of the life shifts he's had with prioritizing his family and moving to San Diego from Colorado and just saying yes and being more open to everything that the universe is offering him. We talk about from going from not wanting kids to really feeling like he has such an amazing opportunity to be a parent for his son and what a gift that has ended up being for him. Also, everything that he's kind of gone through the last couple of years has shifted just who he is today and the way he shows up in the world.
Yeah, I met Dan just honestly about a month ago. It wasn't that long ago. And our coffee was wonderful. I felt such a energy alignment, values alignment, everything that we talked about. And so I'm really grateful that he is such a yes and person. I mean, especially now, I think just really leaning into the opportunities that he's been introduced to. And it's led to, the NLP, that's our really good friend, Corinne Kivett, that he's doing that program with, and then joined the Dream Homes team, which is another member, Maria, in 6 Degrees. So it all just came together and it was so wonderful. And so this was great to have him on here, I guess, early in his journey with 6 Degrees, so that when we have him back on for round 2, we can really compare the journey and where he's been since then. So please enjoy this episode of Sixcess Stories.
How's the day?
Dude, I was just, as I walked in, I'm like, it has been busy since I met you guys. It's just nonstop. I mean, I would say that 90% of it is all good stuff.
Yeah.
But, then you've got the shit in between.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of
life.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel that a lot. Yeah,
and I keep meaning to reach out to Rudy. I really liked him.
Yeah, I know we kind of talked on your way out, but yeah, we can dig into that a little bit of what stood out. I know just some of the stuff that you're working on with Corinne and just the conversations that we've had. It's very much up your alley.
Yeah, so. I'm excited.
Okay, so in terms of the way we typically start these is with a check-in, similar to how we do with the groups. I know you've had limited experience with the groups, but as a check-in for today, what's one thing that you've been working on lately that you're really excited about? You've got a lot going on since we met you, so what's the one thing that's got you really energized coming into this conversation?
Yeah, I would say that the one thing that I'm just continued to be amped up about has been NLP, working with Corinne.
Yeah.
Did the first 4 of the 8 classes, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And it's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And boy, has the brain just been on fire. Mm-hmm. And I was even having some dreams that were more detailed. Actually, I don't really dream, but if I do, I don't remember the next morning.
Interesting.
That's wild.
And especially after the first couple of days of doing it, the dreams were vivid. And so I reached out to Corinne and I was like, well, what does this mean? And she's like, that's your unconscious talking to you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, she said, sit with it, try to understand a little bit, and then put it into ChatGPT and see if it checks out. And boy, is it checking out.
Mm.
So that's been really cool because I really want to integrate it into all walks of my life and just to get out of my head, get out of my space, and be more of value to friends, family, my clients, people I meet. So much of our society, our world is 90% in their own way. And all they need is just the veil to be lifted in order to see the light, and that's where I could see how NLP could be looked at as, a blessing and a curse, because the wrong people that know how to use it could use it for the wrong reasons.
We talk about that a lot with Rudy's work. There's a shadow side to it, and if it's dangerous in the wrong hands.
Big time,
for sure.
And it's happening now, even with the wrong hands.
Yeah,
we just don't necessarily talk about it.
Yeah,
they don't want us to.
It's a tool. It's a hammer, and a hammer can be used as a weapon.
Right.
Like that's the reality of it. Christina, how about for you?
Yeah, there's so much that I want to continue.
Put a pin in it.
I know I'm like trying to put a pin in that. And because I don't want to lose it. So something I'm excited to be working on right now, probably the STFC game event is what's top of mind. What our team has been working on is really trying to discover some companies, businesses, business owners in town that we can, at least from the outside looking in, feel like there's a strong values alignment with 6 Degrees, and filling the room with more and more people who align in that way. So that's been something that it's been interesting to kind of, it feels like a research project in a way, that I haven't really researched this in depth for a while, I feel like. And so it's cool though. It's cool to see how many companies are in the San Diego area that their values, the way that they talk about. One in particular, I just remember it was almost like a apply to work here page, but the whole page was so much about like, this is what it's like to work here. There was so much care around their employees and the way that they just integrate ways for the whole team to come together. And obviously that's from a website, so there could be misalignment when meeting somebody in person versus like what I see on paper or what I see on the web. But at least from that perspective, so it's cool. I'm excited to keep pulling in more people like that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's really, I like, yes.
Strategic.
Yeah, more just intentional outreach. Like we've done a lot of different versions of that. So yeah, to have this event, I'm excited for you to experience it, but it's very much like, this is us at our best. Like we get to be creative, we get to bring people together in a really intentional way. And so, yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm definitely excited about that. I think the other thing for me, just on the back end of some of the things that we're doing in 6 Degrees, is just systematizing things. So project management has been a big piece, and just getting clear about who's doing what and when, and building structure for us and for the team. For so long it's been me and Christina, and just as husband and wife, it's like if I drop the ball, she's going to pick it up without even, and like there's some natural habits that we have that they're great, but it's a little bit like codependence that we're aware of and doesn't necessarily translate to a team. Right. It's helpful until it's not. Type thing. And I think we're feeling that. I wouldn't even call it, someone's like, oh, it's like growing pains. It's like, I don't even know if I would call it growing pains. I think it's part of it is the excitement is around like the awareness of like, no, we can change this. We can actually shift. This isn't serving us. How would we want to operate? Right. Yeah. So that has me kind of energized.
Oh yeah. I mean, gosh, I feel like we could talk this whole conversation around like NLP and like Rudy's work and all of that, which is exciting, and I'm totally here for it, because even with what you just shared, there's the mirror of myself, right? There's that and the reflection that I'm seeing from others, but then there's also like Eric and I as a unit, we also have this identity. And so now with the team, it's like, oh, what's our shared identity mirror that is also being shown to both of us as we try and navigate leading our team and the habits that we have. And sure, they served us to whatever capacity in the past. And if we continue to lead in that way, it's going to continue to become a bigger and bigger and bigger moose, if we use Rudy's safe space terminology, or elephant, something that we have to squash. And so, yeah, it's leading people is such a trip.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
with you being halfway through NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming is what it's short for. I'm realizing we said acronyms. I don't know that we spelled it out quite yet. I'm just trying to be conscious of that. How would you and I know that was something that you had some awareness of or were interest in before even signing up, and your timing, just some of the things just kind of stars aligned on it. How would you describe what you've experienced so far? Like, what if I asked, like, what is NLP, or how has it impacted you? Like, how would you describe that experience? Again, being halfway through it. Yeah. Other than the dreams are different.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good starting point. I would say that ultimately, when you break it down, there's so much stored energy that you have, both from a physiological level to an emotional level to the things that maybe you don't even recall were even an issue are setting you back or holding you back or preventing you from breaking through the ceiling. And for example, like growing up on this podcast, guys, I'm going to be an open book, so you're going to know my whole story. But my wife's going to be like, God, there you go again. Just shut up. But are we allowed to swear on here, by the way?
Yes, please. Yes.
Be you.
This whole podcast, the whole point of this is I want to hear who people are. And so the more authentic, the better. And so, yeah, I'm constantly swearing on here.
Right on. Well, full disclosure, my mother raised me and she swears like a truck driver. So
I love that.
You'll be hearing that. But yeah, so, growing up, I was bullied growing up. I was heavier set and I just never felt like I belonged, even though somebody looking in and watching me, they'd be like, dude, everyone knows you, you're always, trying to make an impression on folks and so on and so forth. And I'd go home and, I'd internalize just where I was lacking just in my own perspective. Right. And, one of the big phrases that Corinne is teaching is, how does this affect me? Especially when you're engaging in dialogue with friends, family, colleagues, work situations, and they're projecting onto you what they're going through. And you can ultimately take that personally, even though it has nothing to do with you, and then you start questioning and snowballing and compounding so much of what had nothing to do with you. And so asking yourself that question, how does this affect me, is been something that has really resonated with me. And
this being the kind of the childhood growing up in this, like, how is it affecting me now?
Correct. Yeah.
That's what you're talking about when you say, how is this affecting me?
Yep. And then there's a series of modalities that we've been beginning to practice. I mean, this isn't a sprint. This is going to be a marathon. And I'm even entertaining the idea of having Corinne be my coach following the program and then getting into the master level and whatnot, because I believe that this is something that should be taught at an early age. I mean, she even said that there's been a 15-year-old that's done it, and I think it should be a part of the curriculum. Next to finance and balancing a checkbook. That's really what we need to be focused on to our youth, especially these days. But yeah, so modalities that we've been practicing, the practicality of it all has really been about going deeper and understanding what really affects you. And there was this specific event while I was in high school that I didn't realize was kind of the core of how I felt in every and any setting moving forward. And when you work on the practice and you really internalize and feel what that felt like, you bring your conscious and unconscious mind synchronized together. When you align yourself with that feeling, then you essentially are manipulating, rewiring, your unconscious thought of that by just instilling so much positivity. Imagine yourself doing your favorite thing, your favorite color, or where you want to be and what that looks like. And that repetitive 5-minute practice can make you basically reset. And that was a couple of the practices that we did that I've been able to re-engage over the course of the past 10 days. And there's often been moments lately where I'm like, this would have normally drove me nuts, or I would have been a little bit more.
Do you have an example of something that?
So for me, I grew up having a lot of ear infections, so sound sensitivity would really affect my mental state, and I'd get like,
sorry.
And when you got a 7-year-old screaming in the house, and you're trying to work on something very concentrated level, that you can just get frustrated and lash out in some cases. Not in a way that would be abusive by any nature, but be like, be quiet, or stop, or whatever.
Just snap.
You snap
a little bit,
right? And so, I mean, that's the first that comes to mind right now, is where I would normally, react that way.
Sure.
That hasn't really been happening. So
that's so cool. Catching myself before the reaction,
right?
Or understanding like, oh, this is normally when fill in the blank like such a cool place to start operating from.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
To have, again, like so quickly, because you're halfway through the course and really only like in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we're 3 weeks, if you will, but
yeah,
it's really been 4 days of, focused study.
Yeah. Intense. Very intense focused study.
Yeah.
My understanding. That's really cool. I'm wondering with that, so how did you get, so part of that work in my experience is like you have to be open to it.
100%.
Like part of like I can teach it to a 15-year-old, but if the 15-year-old's like, this is BS, like it's just gonna go in one ear out the other. It's not gonna really have the impact.
Right.
So I'd love to hear more about your journey of like getting to this place of like I'm really interested. I know you've read books and it's been a lifelong kind of process.
Really has
so
been.
I'd love to learn more. So it started with being a teenager and you kind of identified some stuff. I'd love to hear more about like how you got down to this place in the path.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to me.
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So I would say, because I've been talking about writing a book for the past, 3-4 years. And this past summer, I finally started putting some real notes and making some chapters, building the skeleton, if you will.
Yeah.
And then life happens and it just doesn't, you don't quite get there. Right. So part of the story that I want to write is about what I went through, how I overcame it, what tools I used, but in a very simplistic, storytelling, example-driven, movie referenced oriented, story.
Got it.
So that kind of like The Alchemist. Have you guys read that?
Love that.
That's like his favorite book.
Yeah. So it's just in a way that story tells it, but also kind of has that as like a biography, if you will. And for me, it's just for me to reference and maybe share with friends and family and people that are struggling and could relate. And if it sells, great. If it doesn't, I don't care. It's more for me to encapsulate my life.
There's a lot of, I think, just benefits of just writing things for
journaling,
clarity. Even like us on this podcast, there's been just the experience of talking through certain things.
Yeah, and you have to.
Right? Getting it out of my brain is really, really helpful in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Otherwise, it just stays there.
Yeah.
Right? And
so
then it gets worse.
I love that. That's been an idea for you to have this book.
So where it all really started for me was I graduated 2009 from University of Dayton and then came out to the San Francisco Bay Area for vacation and never came home. I was running a student-run coffee shop at Dayton. It's called Flyer Enterprises, and then they had from the barista all the way up to the CEO was all students.
Sure.
So a very experiential program, and that's the reason why I went to Dayton, because I always wanted to be in business. My dad was an entrepreneur, started a roofing manufacturing business. Loved it there. Was running a student-run coffee shop. Flew out to California. I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. So 2009, that's when Great Recession was still, I wouldn't say at its peak, starting to wind down, but job market was terrible, at least in the Midwest, right? Yeah. So when I was going out there, I applied to Starbucks and ultimately got a call the day I landed, went through the interview process. Within a week, I got my job as a part of the retail manager training program. So that's ultimately how I ended up there. And then I was living in Danville at the time, which is the East Bay of San Francisco Bay Area. And Prime was just starting to come out, Amazon Prime. And DVDs and Blu-rays, I had, the whole collection in my CD pack. And because I love movies. I relate to them. It's my therapeutic way to just check out and be immersed in somebody else's story.
Same.
As opposed to being stuck in my own head.
Yes.
It's
literally like my therapy.
It is.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I have no problem going to the movies by myself. And, it's just, I don't know. It's my therapy. So literally the first movie that I bought was The Secret by Rhonda Byers. Byers, I think is her last name. Okay. And it's just the story about law of attraction and how to get there and what you have to do. And it was just so fascinating. I'm like, this is trippy. Is this real? What is this? I watched it and then picked up the book, because then she started with the movie and then did the book. And then it was just one book after the next. And then there was probably a big gap of, me being immersed in it because, I had just gotten married. And then we moved over to Colorado because my wife was working for Coldwell Banker Corporate on the marketing side of things. And I was still doing retail. And I quit my job. We were able to afford a house in Colorado at the time because we had California money, right? So we wouldn't have been able to afford something in the Bay Area at the time, but we were able to in Colorado. And so I fell in love with the process of buying and selling and ultimately said, no, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then I was right place, right time. And, that the rest is history as far as the success there. But I would say when things started to kind of lose control for me, I started burning the candles at both ends. For me, working by referral was so important, and I was able to do it so well. And I just had this drive to be so successful because my dad was successful, which that's another part of that deep compounding feeling of insecurity that I'm not going to be like my dad.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that up until September of 2024. And, so there was abuse of alcohol, and we had our son. It was just born. COVID hit. And so then I was super busy with real estate because everyone was lining out the door to buy something because they didn't want to be downtown, or they were giving away free money with the rates. So it was a very busy time. But, I had my son, and my wife was a stay-at-home at that point, working on the back-end operations. I really think I had male postpartum as well. I think once my son was born, I didn't really want kids, and that was kind of a struggle for us in the early stages of our marriage. And then it just got to a point where it's like, okay, all right, well, let's go for this. And then it happened, and then it was just a lot of weight was on me. As time progressed, it just got worse and worse, and I ended up taking a break from alcohol and really had a clear perspective on what was really deep rooted in what was bothering me.
Yeah.
And with the help of a couple of other therapies. So I did ketamine therapy, supervised by my physician assistant. And I actually did a Facebook Live with him. He's got a membership practice that kind of helps with your entrepreneurs that don't want to buy into, their own insurance and whatnot, or at least take full advantage and have to pay the cost of it. So it's a membership base. So go get your check-in. He can prescribe and get your physical and all that kind of stuff. But it takes a very holistic approach. I had never taken blood work prior to, I did, but now I'm like very into it because I want to know my numbers about everything and track it and so on and so forth. But part of his practice, he has the ketamine therapy, and that's where I realized how in my head I was. Because you really you disassociate, and you just see so many different things. And we could talk a whole podcast just about that.
Yeah.
To be honest. And then dabbled a little bit with macro and microdosing of psilocybin. And I'm not trying to portray that I was this druggie on the street, but, I was very intentional with the therapies and spread them out. And
it sounds like exploring different options that might be beneficial to what's going on in my brain.
Right.
Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's during that time, that's when I was introduced to Joe Dispenza. Have you guys heard of him?
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's where then NLP was introduced to me, and then neuroplasticity, and then, rewriting neural pathways. I've always had a fascination with people's stories. I've always been that person that would get people in a room like this, and they were totally not expecting it, but I'd get their life story.
Yeah.
And just because I was able to make them feel comfortable enough, because I know what it feels like to feel uncomfortable in my own skin. And I just, the people that struggle the most when they can make you the most comfortable or feel appreciated or loved, because that's something that I think is missing in their life. And they know, it's like kind of like in Captain America, where they're choosing which guy to be Captain America, and it's all about being just the good man, because a strong man that gets more strength would abuse it, whereas a weak man that gets strength knows its value at the end of the day. And so then it was positive intelligence with Shehzad, and that was where it's different meditative practices that you literally can not even have your eyes closed, and hearing this waterfall or these bells ringing for you to get into a meditative state. It was more of staring at something and just really looking at its color, or hearing sounds, or traditional meditation, whatever it is. And he talks about how you have saboteurs and you have your sage, your left and right brain. Your saboteurs are, the big saboteur is your judge, your judge of yourself and your judge of others. And then having that awareness to then go, wait a minute, why am I thinking about it that way? And then think about something positive, the sage. Then there's elements of the sage that you incorporate. That's rewriting, that's neural pathways.
Sure.
How you think of something, and then having the awareness to stop and divert, and doing that repetitively, and also utilizing the meditation. So that's really, I think, where most of it started to really start happening for me. And then my dad passed away in 2024. He had a rare T-cell lymphoma that came up in November of 23. So in context, that was less than a year. And it just created so much. I mean, he was the king of the family, right? I'm youngest of 5, come from a big Italian family. And it was a lot. And my mom has MS, and they've really never been together the past 15, 20 years. They've been legally married, but kind of living a separate life.
Yeah.
But still together, but it would often cause so much friction and drama between the family and whatnot. So yeah, then when he passed, and a lot was coming out for me about just how much pressure I was putting on myself, on my dad. And then I wouldn't say the lack of intimate, deep father-son conversational type relationship. We didn't have that, but he was still an amazing father, and I looked up to him, and he was my hero.
Yeah.
But as far as being able to talk about this stuff with him, he'd be like, what?
Feelings? What are feelings?
Right, exactly.
He bottled those up. You
Yeah,
put them away.
did.
You don't ever.
He did, yeah.
You don't ever talk about those.
I mean, he was born in 1941, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you just put your head down on pound pavement, you know? So, and then putting that together with the realization of where I was with my son, and then the relationship I was having with my wife, where we were almost getting a divorce right at the funeral. So you can imagine how life just erupted.
It's a whirlwind.
What was crazy is, I wasn't, I grew up Roman Catholic, but I got more into Buddhism, just more of study of thyself. And it made me realize that, I needed to incorporate God into my life, because I was, spiritual, and I believe that they can live very well together. They're all saying the same thing, just a different way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I was by myself in my house. My wife and son came out to California to be with her side of the family. And I heard my dad say, don't make the same mistake I did. And it was at that moment where just my whole being shifted. I got so open to so many things. I realized that the world I created in Colorado was more about me. I was part of an HOA board, and I was doing big things for the organization and still being successful in real estate, but I was just dismissing the core of who people are, and that's their family, or at least the people that are around them that are family. I know people come from broken families and they don't have that gift, but they have others around them, right? And I was neglecting them. We went through some intense therapy. Katrina gave me another shot, and it came down to where I just said, we got to spice it up. So we sold our house in Colorado, and we just came out to Encinitas just to test it out for the summer. Yeah. And it was actually our son Armin that said we should move here. And this was during spring break. So we were like, well, let's listen to him. Maybe he's telling us something. And if we didn't like it, we could come back and, get a rental and get back to how things were, or at least different, right? But before we knew it, it was middle of July, and we're like, this is it. We love where we're at. We found a place, and then we just started establishing ourselves. So that was in May of this past year when we came out for the summer, and then closed on our house in August. And then I was like, okay, what do we do now? I didn't really know what direction to go. I didn't think I was going to stay in real estate. I was exploring other options, but people were calling me because they knew I was in California, and you have to listen to that. And then Christina reaches out. And then Corinne reaches out, and then John Allen reaches out. And
have you and John Allen met?
Yeah, we met.
I know,
we finally met in person.
I didn't realize so many of these connections happen. Christina, you introduced John to Dan, and then somewhere along the way, I was like, oh no, those were just phone calls. Like you guys hadn't actually met each other, right?
Yeah. Like we got off the phone, and he called me back maybe a half hour later and said, hey, I know you just said you got into real estate, or you just got your license out here and you're just trying to figure it out. Maria with Compass, she's looking for someone with half a brain, is how he said it. And I feel like you got a full brain, and we relate. So why don't you, are you interested? I know you're with EXP at the time, and do you want to reach out? So I did, and met with Joe, and here we are, just joined the Dream Homes team, powered by Compass. And it's just like what they always say, surround yourself with people that want to elevate themselves, and then it just starts coming to you naturally. And that's what's been happening.
Yeah.
So all of this, I guess, in the short of what you asked, it's been an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
A lot of self-study, but I think now, given that it's the year of the fire horse, if you follow the stars or whatever, the astrological stuff or however they name it, phrase it, Chinese New Year, and that's kind of the path that we're on.
Yeah.
Both Katrina and I and Armin, you know.
I love it.
Yeah. That answer your question?
Yes. I have probably about 10.
Yeah. Well,
10 to pull off of that.
Before you do, because
I'm gonna leave some space for you.
Because Eric he's really good at pulling a lot of questions. But the one thing that really struck me, because I don't even think I've heard someone name having postpartum being the male in the relationship. I know that that's something that women now talk about more. And that wasn't even really part of conversations even 10 years ago for most people, right? It was, I think women were very reserved to even share like what they're actually going through. And then so now take it a step further. And if they're open to talking a little bit more about like what that was like, because I think sharing those types of experiences and things that we're going through, it creates a space for people to go like, oh shit, me too. And I didn't even know what I was going through. Mm-hmm. It was within the past year that I learned about perimenopause. And I'm like, I'm sorry. That's something that like literally all women are going through. And yet
what my wife is talking about right now,
it's
too.
not being shared. It's not right. And like now I see it all over the place. But I think the more that we can actually share like the truth about kids in life and getting older and our bodies, and that is so helpful.
At the expense, at my own expense of sounding really dumb, is I've never heard of a male say like I was experiencing postpartum.
I didn't really realize it was a thing either until you start talking about it, and then you talk to the right person that knows about it, and then you start analyzing it and being like, oh my gosh, okay, that's exactly what it is. I mean, you could name anything all day, and is it really what it was? I don't know, but that's what I at least coined it to be, because I knew that deep down inside I didn't want to have kids. But now that I have my son Armin, he is now my hero. Mm-hmm. Because he has taught me so much about the simplicity of life and the simple joys. And when you lose your dad and then you have the idea of losing your son, as far as not being able to see him every day, it really just puts everything in perspective, and you're like, I got to get my shit together. Yeah. Because I don't want to repeat where my dad had his challenges. And, I saw so much of myself in my son with things that he was worrying about, even in his little mind, whether it's just courage or, being shy, embarrassed, having anxieties about stuff. And when you can pinpoint that and to be able to understand where he's coming from, and now having the skills and tools that I have now, I'm like, I can help you, kid. And I'm the best person to do that. Yeah. So for him now, it's I'm able to bring all that I've learned in neuropathway and neuroplasticity and bring it down to an elementary level. Mm-hmm. Like there's even a great book called Dax to the Max, and it's essentially neuroplasticity but in a comic book. And so he's been so afraid of baseball, but he wants to play it. And we've been really working on brain health and just when you get anxious, breath work, that type of thing. And, we read a chapter or two a night, and before I put him to bed, say our prayer and whatnot. And then just yesterday, he finally was really wanting to get the game ball, because I'm the head coach for his Little League baseball team, and probably had 7 or 8 games, and he hasn't gotten the game ball. So that's kind of hard to be in the head coach and not giving your son the game ball, right? Yeah. But he showed the effort and change of thinking, and he had the best game yesterday, and he was just so ecstatic and whatnot. But I guess to go back to your question, Christina, about postpartum, I feel that men in general just don't realize that they are emotional beings just as much as women are. I think that more men should realize that they can't censor themselves that way. But society and just evolution has not allowed that, right? Yeah. I mean, from the dawn of time to today, right, the man has always just needed to fend for themselves or fend for the family, protect the family, and then the son follows suit. And you just do what you got to do to make sure that happens. And then you get into the Industrial Revolution where, prior to that, it was hunters and gatherers, and you needed your entire family to feed, right? You needed everyone to help with the fields and do housework and all that kind of stuff. But then Dad still wasn't quite there to be there emotionally, but was at least there to teach, how to run a house. But then the Industrial Revolution happened and the dad went to the factory. And then .com happened, dad was in the office. And then, so nowadays you have these generations of men that didn't really have a father that could sit down and talk to them on an emotional level.
Right.
So it just makes total sense
Of
why we're here.
Yeah. It's not a surprise.
It's not, yeah. But when you peel back the layers,
Right.
You sit here and go, why is this happening? Why is this happening? But we have to study history, and we have to understand why we've evolved this way. And looking at it from the postpartum side, there was just so much weight that I was carrying. Maybe how I was feeling, how my dad was as a father, or that I didn't want to make those mistakes. And because, like, I always feel like Forrest Gump. You guys seen Forrest Gump?
Of course.
So he finds out he has a son, right? Jenny brings him over to the apartment, and he goes, "Is he smart? Or is he like me?" That's how I felt for Armin when he was born. I'm like, is he gonna be smart, or is he gonna have all of these problems that I had?
Yeah.
Or be involved in this disastrous world that judges you and beats you up mentally. It's almost like I was like, why should we bring people into this world? It's terrible. And so I think when you compound that all together, that's where it can get depressive, and then you escape and you avoid, and you put your focus into other things.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
This world is, even just like the window that we have into everything going on is not a natural thing. It used to, like, to your point about the evolution of like just communities, it was like there were like 20 of us.
Right. Yeah.
And one of them would be a little bit off. It's like, oh, Dan's getting in trouble again. You got to go help Dan.
Yep.
But that would be like the biggest problem of the year.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
Right. Not knowing, like, there's 8 billion people. There's two things with what you just said that popped in my head, but specifically with that thought, there's one globe, but there's 8 billion worlds. Everyone has a different perspective of what's going on. And I'm not supposed to have a window into all 8 billion at all the time.
Yeah.
It's not, capacity isn't there for that.
Right.
It's such an interesting place and time that we live in to be able to function in that way. So yeah, of course, all of that, everything that you just said, it's overwhelming. And
it comes to you like that.
Yeah.
Like, how can you process that?
Yeah. And what I will say is, so it sounds like your son is so lucky to have you, right?
Thank you.
I tell my sister, who has kids, she's got 3 of them. I told her this before she had any of them, like, my perception of it, not a parent, so smack me if I'm wrong, but your only job as a parent is to help your kid understand how you're fucking them up.
Yes.
Because that's it.
Yeah.
I'm doing X because so much of it is, it's this giant pendulum of, my mom did this and I loved it, so that's how I'm going to do to you. Or I hated this and I never want to do that to you. But that, like, your kid is internalizing one or the other. And it's too much, too little, not enough, too good, all of this thing. So it's just, here's why I did what I did, and that's the part that to me seems the most important.
100%.
Through probably some NLP stuff, probably some awareness things, probably some tools, probably some therapy, but it's, and with the caveat of, like, every parent is just doing the absolute best that they can at the time, right?
And that's the one thing that we just have to acknowledge, right? I mean, my parents came from, they had to raise their families. My dad's dad died in World War II. His mom got cancer very early on, so he was the oldest of 3 other siblings, right? So he had to care for them and put food on the table and work his way through things. And then my mom, she had an absent mom, and her dad was an alcoholic, and they really were raised by wolves, right? And so fortunately, my mom, that's where I think I get a lot of my emotional intelligence from, and she just has that empath side to her, then that her and I can really relate on. And I was failed to mention that I was homeschooled for 3 years, so that's, her and I have a very powerful relationship.
Yeah.
Which, when I say powerful, it can be powerfully bad but powerfully good.
Yeah.
And I would say, as of late, since the fog and the haze of her dysfunctional marriage and his passing, I'd say the silver lining is that cloud that has lifted, and she is a lot more at peace, even though things are chaotic with settling the estate and whatnot. But so I share that because they did the best they could. And being the youngest of 5, and comically being coined the mistake by the lake, because they thought they thought they couldn't have kids anymore, and so
Mistake by the lake
is amazing.
That's amazing because it just like rhymes. It's like, oh, our
well,
mistake by the lake.
And it's funny because in Cleveland, they call Cleveland, Ohio, the mistake by the lake because the water set on fire way back in the day because of so much pollution, and so it was just a very dirty city, and so it just got the mistake by the lake. But then my parents had a cabin up in upstate New York, just south of Buffalo, Lake Chautauqua. They had just bought the place because things were going well, and that's where I came right there. 6 years when they thought I couldn't have kids. So, but I always joke, I'm like, I'm the best damn mistake you ever made.
Of course.
Of course. Did your other brothers, siblings, sisters? What's the dynamic? Is it boys, girls?
Yeah, two brothers, two sisters. So I have my brother who's 6 years older, sister 10 years older, and then Dad was married before, so the other two are half siblings.
Got it.
And they're 25 and 26 years older.
Were any of them homeschooled at all?
No.
Or no, just you. So
me.
if I asked your mom, like, who are you closest to, she would probably say you.
She might say that.
Yeah.
She might say that.
Who do you have the strongest relationship or the most powerful?
She has strong relationships with all, but just in their own capacities.
Yeah.
But I would say that in her darkest of times, for better or for worse, for me, I was the one she would
You're the
reach
baby.
out to. Yeah.
You're the baby of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, when you put that all together, it made me realize how much influence I really can have, and at least share how not to fuck up for him.
Yeah, and then, I mean, that's so family dynamics are real, and most of the time we're not conscious or aware of how they're showing up and how, like, the baggage that I'm bringing and projecting, like, all of that is just awareness, consciousness. It's really interesting, and everything that you're doing with, like, the NLP stuff and, like, teaching him and stuff, he could take all of that and go, this is too much. I hated that he did this.
But
right?
he might remember a tidbit or two.
Right. It's still, but again, coming from love and, like, doing, like, with good intentions, it still can, some of it still gets through. But, like, there's a version of everything that you're doing with him. It does the opposite. It has the opposite impact. Like, you can't control it.
Right.
I would imagine, I've talked to this with my mom about this a lot. I would imagine one of the hardest things for a parent is to, because I know she's done this with me, is to watch your child make the same mistakes that you made and feeling helpless about there's nothing I can do. You have to go learn this lesson. And hopefully that's a very kind of a light-hearted lesson and not like a life or death type situation.
Right.
Right. But there's levels to that. But as a parent, just watching just go down the same path, like, well, I know how this ends. For the movie reference, I know how this movie ends.
Yeah.
You're going to have to watch it yourself.
Right. You're only causing more pain, Because you even reflect on the book, The Anxious Generation, and it talks about the different parenting styles. Whereas back in the day, you were able to let your kid play in the street or go to the neighbor's house, a couple blocks away with no concerns. But now you have these helicopter parents that everything they do, they're just monitoring and spoon feeding everything, and it's the pendulum, as you mentioned. It just needs to be right here, right in the middle.
Well, I think, and I'm curious for you. So you said Armin's 7 now. So how have you evolved with him? Because I think there's there's a parenting style that I have, but I've also just talked to people like with this kid. I have 5 brothers and sisters. It's actually, it's each one is their own. I have to have a different style. I have to understand. It's like almost like employees. Where it's like, well, no, I can't just treat everyone the same. It's like this person's motivated by this, and this person really likes this. So, but some parents just go, nope, this is how I am. Take it or leave it. So I'm curious for you with the consciousness and the awareness that you have, like, how have you evolved at each age progression from when he was born till 7 with what you're working on?
Yeah,
because it sounds like it's very overlapped, and I'm sure
it is. Yeah, and there was lots of other reads that I had in between all that too, and I would say that we quickly realize that he's his own person. Yeah. And all we can do is give him guardrails. And, when he questions things, be honest about it at his level.
Right.
And don't hide things, and don't make him need to inquire outside of our 4 walls, because they're going to find it. And who would you rather be the one telling the story? A kid that has abusive family, or a kid that's spoiled and has everything, or somebody on YouTube. So at the end of the day, we realized very quickly how impactful screens were for him, but how they're never going away. So meeting him in the middle to a degree. Yeah. And you have to just be aware of the cues, what drives him, what makes him tick, like a leader should with a business. And I think you're reference about employees is perfect, because that's in fact how it should be looked at. But the problem is 90% of our world has no idea how to run a business.
It's it's hard to personalize things for individuals, right?
Yeah.
It's easier for me to just go, this is how I am, take it or leave it.
Yep.
Oh, that leader's an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's easier, it's simpler, it's easier, and I can still be effective, whatever successful, quote unquote successful looks like with that. It still can work.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What about, so with, you talked about the journey of a lot of the stuff that, the self-development piece, but even just recently with more like the NLP and like from moving here and being here for about a year now, and then just the dynamic of your relationship with your wife, like what's been shifting for you with all this other, like whether it's NLP specifically or even just everything that you've been doing, how have you seen that evolve?
Yeah. And I think where I can really, really touch on that is I always felt like I was very open to things and was very, I would compromise, or I'd make sure people felt comfortable. I'd go out of my way to demonstrate that. But when
people pleasing,
people pleaser, it was definitely a people pleaser, which had its unfortunate effects. Right. So the next epiphany I had before we decided to leave Colorado, I had read, is it Not the Enemy or Ego is the Enemy? I think it's Ego is Not the Enemy. I don't know. One of those two. I know those sound like they're totally different perspectives, depending on the not or not, but that made me realize how much of an ego I really did have on how I absorbed things, how I reacted to things, and how destructive that is when, even though you're trying to make people feel comfortable in doing the right thing, you're actually making them feel uncomfortable in doing the wrong thing. And so I guess when you can get to a place where you're comfortable in your own skin and really be aware and label what your faults are, and not necessarily accepting them, you just are going to be ongoingly working on them, being able to stop and divert when you get that awareness, that feeling where you're like, okay, all right, that's a judge, or that's a people pleaser, or that's whatever.
Yeah.
And you divert. So to get to the basic of your question, I would say that was probably the core of it all, where I thought that my ideas were the right ideas. And more I've allowed Katrina to drive the ship. I've allowed Armin to drive the ship. I'm saying yes. It really is mind-blowing when you can let go and just see what's around you.
That's beautiful. Has she gone down any of these paths? Like, so you're in the NLP program and talked about some of the things that you've done. Like, has she explored anything similar or read some of the same books or shares any of this with you?
She's been she's an old soul. She very similar to my parents in a way. She comes from a Mexican family, and she basically grew up with her parents, right? They had her when they were both in high school.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And then the next kid was not until 7 years later.
Okay.
And then she's the oldest of 5. So the family dynamic she had required a lot of her being a parent,
Yep.
in a way. So that upbringing with, the baby of a family that could be looked at as a spoiled brat type. And so when you converge those upbringings, there can be differences of opinion.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic.
Very,
for sure.
Very. So, and for me also, I coming from Ohio, there wasn't a lot of diversity. Fortunately, I came from rich Italian heritage. Like, I'm half Italian and I thought half Romanian, but ancestry told us otherwise. There's a whole nother story behind that. But so I'm half Italian, half 40% Greek, and the rest Romanian. But having at least that heritage culture was the saving grace. Whereas if I was, just that purebred white boy, boat shoes, shorts all the way up to the thigh type, I wouldn't. That's how because it's funny. She always say like, "You're not white." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm not white?" She's like, you're Italian. I'm like, wow, okay. And then it finally dawned on me, and she points. I'm like, oh. I
was like, no, that's a white guy.
Yeah.
What she's, like when you say that, I was like, what she's actually trying to say is like, you have culture.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, right? And then And so because of that, there was relatability there, because Mexican and Italian cultures are very similar. It's about family, it's about food, it's about celebration, so on and so forth. So I think that kept the engagement going in the early stages of our marriage. But
how'd you two meet?
Man, that's another good story. So we knew each other through a mutual friend. I was managing a coffee shop in Mount Clair in Oakland, and she was in mortgages, and the title rep would come to my coffee shop, and we had a fun relationship, one of my favorite customers, and she was going to go to a party that was a networking event for the title and lending partnership. Well, it turns out it was only just the three of us. It was Katrina, the mutual friend, and myself.
On purpose, or
no,
that just okay? That it just like happened.
Nobody else showed up.
Okay.
So we're at this bar called the Kona Club off Piedmont Avenue in another little town of Piedmont within Oakland. We just totally neglected the mutual friend, and we hit it off, and we knew each other 3 months, ran away to Hawaii, told our friends and family through YouTube. So.
Oh, wow. That's so fun.
So we just celebrated 14 years actually on Monday. So.
Congrats.
Yeah. So I guess it worked out. Had its bumps in the road, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so as far as her having interest in this, I think she's, I guess, living vicariously through me.
Sure.
Has she had her own sincere interest with it? No, not really.
I asked that more because, so like with Rudy and in his conscious communication work, that's something that Eric was introduced to way before Eric and I met. And then when we met, he was like, I'm just going to show you what these tools are on paper, basically, and just know that this is how I'm operating within our relationship. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I didn't really know what any of it was. And then we buy this business, and Rudy was the first person that Eric made a call to. And then we just, from that point on, we went out to Wisconsin, and that was my first experience of actually understanding, or not even, scratch the surface. I think anytime someone gets introduced to conscious communication, the first time it's a lot. And so I was like, oh, okay, now I understand a little bit more about what Eric's talking about. And I'll never forget that when this all started happening in the beginning, Eric was like, I know that if I show this to Christina and give this to her, like, she's going to like reach this level that's even surpassing like even my use of these tools. And I think there's just been a few moments lately that it's started to happen a little bit. And I can see how Eric's like, this is really fucking annoying right now.
That's part of it. Yep.
Right.
Well, there's a really big stat where it's all Gestalt psychology based, and so there's a really big stat that Rudy has shared that anyone that goes through Gestalt training, like 90-something% get divorced because of the awareness piece around it.
Gosh, really?
So like
he'll share too. Like him and his wife almost got divorced because of it,
like multiple
because
times.
of the programming. Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah. So there is like you touched on this, but like there is this positive and there's a curse to it. The awareness is a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
I think, and there's different times and different places and different stages of going through being aware. And when I met Christina, it was just very much like, we're never going to really fight. And here's why. So just here's the base of some of this. I learned it at a pizza restaurant. Right? And I was 20 and I'm like, it's same thing that you said about NLP, about like, we were teaching 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds some of this work and giving kids these tools specifically for work environments, place. But people would come in parents would come in and be like, they'd drop their kid off on the first couple of days. Within 3 or 4 weeks, they'd be like, what have you done to my kid? They are more confident. Like their body language has changed. They're more of themselves. And parents would do this all the time. It was like the coolest thing to hear someone. And then people on the outside, the guests they just come in like, everyone is like, what are you guys brainwashing people with? Kind of thing, right? Everyone's smiling. Everyone's having a good time, right? It was, and I'm like 20 and I talk about this a lot, but I'm 20 and I'm like, you guys, I just got to college. I paid a lot of money to go to college and I didn't learn any of this. And you're getting
scary.
You're getting paid
Yeah.
to practice this on a daily basis. I'm like, this is, and again, that was my first experience of the real world. Like, oh, so this is how all businesses work.
Gosh. Yeah, that went out the window real quick.
Right, but it planted the seed from me. I was like, but this is possible, and I've seen it. And so when we took over 6 Degrees, the reason to call Rudy is We wanted to define our purpose and our values. And like, that was like, why do we have this thing? Right. Like that was the part of it. And then as we were going through that process, it was like, oh, like so much of what we want to do in the direction we want to go is like, this is about relationships. And so much of the biggest part of relationships is communication. And we like universally as human beings are, to put it lightly, would be say we suck at it, right? We are very ineffective. We're very inefficient. We aren't really connecting with each other, right? There's all this stuff. And I'm like, this might be helpful to help our members get better at building relationships.
Big time.
Communication is such a big part of it. So that, more than anything, like that was what the motivation for me and for us was to bring Rudy in. It was like, I think for certain people that are interested in this, to be a better leader, to be like from a professional side, like help me be a better human, and that'll ripple into my family and my friends and the community that I'm part of. Like that was our kind of our bigger goal. And so we've slowly tried to integrate it more and more, as have it be part of the onboarding, little tastes. And even what you came to the other day with Rudy was just like, we've had people say, oh, like, a couple days, like 2 half days is kind of a lot. It's like, all right, here's a 2-hour version. And like, I think we just,
it was not enough.
Scratched the surface of.
That's more of a full day one, I feel like.
We left it going like, that was great. And there was so much more there that we could have gotten into. So I would love it for you as someone newer to that, and again with everything that you're doing with Corinne, like what was your experience of Rudy? Like what was the takeaway that you had from what we talked about in that abbreviated,
in that 2-hour time
session? I know it was a couple of weeks ago, so it's not super fresh, but
what really stood out to me is that, I don't know if you guys recall, but I went to use the restroom and I was locked out, right? So I couldn't get in. But so when I get in, and I just immediately felt the room like so charged, I'm like, what is happening?
You left it like the most interesting time.
I'm like, damn it. But at first I thought it was role play. Who were the two gentlemen?
Yeah, we won't name any names, but there was 2 people that had just a real like intense moment and like a real thing of like, hey, and we were talking about I statements, right? And so part of, just to give a little context to this moment, so you stepped out, but the conversation was around I statements and making I statements and the difference between me saying you, what I actually mean me,
right?
And being conscious of that, and the person that was talking said everything in a you statement. And then Rudy asked him to say it in an I statement, and he conceptually understood it, and it's like, I'm just going to change you to I. And then he said it again, and so what happened was he said it again, and then it was like this moment for the other person of, oh my gosh, this is why I felt a certain way towards you when it was a you statement. I felt like you were talking down to me, and it didn't land, it didn't resonate the way that an I statement can. Right. So that, and you walked in as like that interaction is happening, of him just being like, dude, I've known you for a while. Like, this makes so much more sense now. In a super subtle changing you to I. Right.
It literally, I mean, it was wild to see. This is a relationship that they have had for a long time, and he felt the most connected that he's ever felt just with that little shift to that person.
Wow.
It just like, it completely changed the way that he took in. The crazy thing was, it wasn't even something that was being directed at each other. It was more of, here's this thought, here's this concept idea that was being addressed. And then the moment that it switched to I mean, and I felt it too. It was like, oh, I just connected with this human. And it also made clarity for me as well. I was like, oh yeah, that's probably the miss in communicating with the individual who switched from you to I. So yeah, that was the moment that you walked back in, and this powerful interaction had just occurred, and I was blown away, because it's one of those things that we tell people at this point, anytime we have Rudy in, someone's probably going to be moved to tears in some way, shape, or form in this space at some point. And in my mind, I thought, in 2 hours, that's not going to happen. There's no way that that's going to happen in 2 hours. And it did. And I was like, wow, this is the power of the work that Rudy has been doing for 40 plus years. And anytime that we get to have him here in San Diego and work with him, and the transformations that I've gotten to witness over these last 4 years, every time we've done this, it's amazing.
Yeah. And what I took away from that was, and I came home and talked to Katrina about it, you know, because of the strength that she's had to have, and tying in with the NLP of projection, but then the use of the word you, that was, I had always perceived that as she's just being abrasive or egotistical or judgmental or talking down to me, you know. And she, you know, she'd be that way with her siblings and anyone she'd really engage with on a personal level. So that we were able to break that barrier, and have been continuing to break that barrier, where it's, you can't project onto people, even though they maybe are your loved ones, or even in some cases your own children that are not of age. You still have to, you know, approach it consciously so that you're not feeling affronted. Or
do you hear that you just said you statements?
I did.
In that? Okay.
I
just
did.
since we're talking about it,
Yeah,
normally I
no.
wouldn't call it out on
No,
the,
I'm glad you did.
But like, just so even for someone listening, that might land in a different way than if I'm talking about my experience as a father and as a husband, and I say this and we did this, right? Like, it's a different, so, and this is where the conscious part comes, is, okay, once I understand this has an impact, how awake do I want to be?
Sure.
Right. And that's been what's been so cool for me and Christina, for that. I think part of, if I had to guess, like part of that, when you asked, like, has Katrina like been interested in any of this? Because for us to keep each other kind of awake in certain times, where, because it's a lifelong practice, it's a marathon of, like, I don't just learn the thing once and then, like, I read the book, I watched the movie,
box, yep.
we're good here. It's like, no, like, this is a lifelong practice.
Yeah.
Right. So just invitation for you of, like, I know this is the work that you're doing. So just like, and then you said, yeah, I noticed it.
Said it. Yep.
Well, even just when you have the opportunity to listen back, right? It happens often. Now, I mean, it's one of those awareness pieces that at first I wasn't clocking anything. And then Eric pointed out, listen to it more in interview settings, right? Interview, like sports, when people are being interviewed there. And I listen to Armchair Expert religiously. So then I started catching, there are certain moments where Dax is actually talking about something so personal and is using you statements. And I wonder how much more of an impact that would, like, how that would hit with somebody if it was from the place of I, when they truly mean I. And so that's something where even just listening to these podcasts and catching myself and being, I meant I, right? And then I just started getting better and better and better the more that I would practice that awareness piece.
And, like, really important headline of, like, it's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It's just, if I want to have the maximum impact, if I want to connect with people the most, I can be more conscious and be more choiceful in the words that I'm using. Yeah. Right. It's the equivalent of, like, am I slowing down to catch my ums? And
I still struggle with that.
Right.
So
And I do too.
Likes,
And the kind of, and the likes, and, like, it's a version of that. And my experience is way more impactful if I'm really intentional. And then it just becomes habit.
Sure.
And I, again, hear it. I learned it from emails. I would catch it in emails. Right. And it was one of those things where I was like, I had to see it in other people, and then I had to part of the same thing where you're talking about, like, the reaction. Yep. It's like, I have this something happened, and I used to just react. Can I catch myself? I just heard Christina say it, or I just heard myself say it, and then just shift it. Right.
Just
like,
say it again.
That to me, like, that's Rudy's magic. Is he has been practicing this level of awareness for 40 years, and he will still say you. But in the moment, he will actually, like, back up and replay it
And say it again.
So it's like I'm watching, like, the quote unquote the master at work, still be human and still make mistakes, because it's human. Yeah. Right. We're
not perfect.
So
I love that. And I feel like it just got seared in my brain. You know, as far as, I'm a very practical learner, like, and kinesthetic, and I need to really put it into practice in order for it to really hit.
Yeah, and it'll take a little bit, because the natural habit is, I'm going to say I'm going to deflect it when I'm actually not comfortable about it. It's easier for me to not put myself in it, because I've experienced it, and I'm like, I don't want to go back there. So it's actually our brain kind of helping us feel safe, right? So I'm disassociating. It's like, you know how you just go, you do this, you do X, we do Y. But if I'm actually talking about myself going through it, it's such a different experience. And it actually, if I own it, it'll land differently.
And I think a big piece of that too, that I had to realize deeper into the awareness around I, is a lot of times people will say you when they're talking about the collective we, or they're even talking about a concept, something else. And so they'll use you almost because that's just societally what we are used to. Us as a collective, we use you in place of I, we, or even just naming this water bottle as an example of I'm talking about something else, right? And so it's just understanding at what moment do I mean any of those,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Just the headline that Rudy will talk about is like lose the pronouns. Like so,
Yeah.
all the whole conversation about they, them, us is like no, just say Dan.
It's so much easier, wouldn't it? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, and respect to anyone that has, they want to be called in a certain way and they have a certain pronoun, like no disrespect at all.
Okay, so this happened at the beginning of his podcast. There was a question, and Dan, you were saying something. You were talking about that, when that, and Eric had a clarifying question of, and by that you mean, and filled in the blank, right? And so that's part of, I think, that's where we suck as humans at communicating, right? Because we'll start to fill that over there, that, this, that, the other, and then now we don't really know what anyone's talking about. So that was another area where I specifically remembered that being the learning around losing the pronouns was my biggest takeaway at one of the times that Rudy was out here. And for the following several probably months, anytime Eric would use that or it or whatever, I'm like, what's the that?
And this is the part that starts like just like twisting the knife a little bit, in a very playful.
Sure.
It's a lot of
that's
play.
an NLP practice as well, which I have not integrated, just yet.
Yeah, it's time, right?
Yeah.
Again, so much of it is awareness, and then part of for us is, can we have a community of people that are invested in being more awake, being more aware, and just trying to be better, right? All this is can I be the best human? Am I trying to be the best human that I want to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not gonna be perfect all the time, but can I take attempts? Can I take swings at trying to do that?
Sure.
If I remember correctly from the lab, part of your takeaway was understanding how the we in a sales conversation could show up and joining. I'm curious if you've played with that at all with recent client conversations.
When it comes to client conversations in a warm referral, established rapport situation, I don't have to think about that. It's very organic.
Yeah.
Where in this transition to a new market and not having the same sphere of influence that I had in Colorado, the community that I had built, that is where my miss is right now. And that's what I'm wanting to take away most in all of my labs and work and practice, is to be able to quickly do that I've only met you for 5 seconds. How do I lift that veil? And subtly, humbly get your attention, and so to answer your question, it frightens me. And so I have not been able to nail it yet. And, I'm practicing, but the distractions of everything else I do have going on, I wouldn't say I'm living in an effect. I'm trying to be more at cause with it, but there is only so much time in a day. And because I need practice and intentional practice, it's going to be another marathon, for me to get that really intentionally and awarefully working.
Yeah. I think that's the hard part, or the challenge for so many people, is like, you've been doing real estate for how many years?
11 years now. Yeah.
11 years. And like, there's autopilot that happens on some of it. Cause it's like, well, no, I know all the steps. I can give you all but we're just talking about, like, we're just going to sharpen this little piece. And instead of saying you, I'm going to say I, right? In the thing that I have on autopilot. Sometimes that can be harder
Right.
Versus a brand new experience of, okay, like I'm sitting up a little bit straighter and I'm paying more attention, and okay, let me try this.
Right.
In a more of a vacuum kind of setting. Like I'm sure the training is very much like, oh, I'm focused, I'm here. Right. And everyone's here to also be part of that.
And she whips you. If you're not listening, she's going to call you out. She doesn't mess around.
Yeah.
And this next phase that we're doing is going to surround the integration now in our businesses. Whereas I feel like the first 4 days was just about, all right, we're just going to peel off all these containers, put them into your brain. We're going to swish it up, and now it's going to come out. It's all going to come together.
Well, yeah, I think my experience, I haven't done NLP with Corinne, or have limited experience with it, but part of it is like I have to work on me first, because me is what's blocking everything else. If we just talk about my business, like that's not the problem.
Yeah,
that's a symptom of whatever I've got going on related to when I'm 13 or 12 or whatever, 5 or whatever these traumatic moments that I've brought with me, right? That have supported me.
Yeah,
they have served me, but they're not serving me anymore, and I have to rewire that. I have to unpack that first.
Right. I feel like so many of us, me in particular, words has always been the way of defining my expertise and being able to show value. And now to have to really take a step back and say enough words to get them engaged. It's called chalking up. I believe it's the Milton model, but I couldn't take a test right now for sure. So Corinne, if you're listening and I'm saying it incorrect, I apologize. But it's about getting to a level of generality, something that's happy, or getting them to a place of wow. And then you laterally move over the conversation, and then you start chalking down. And in a way you're asking, and how does that affect you? Or how does that make you feel? Not using a why, because a why gets into a scenario, and then to your point about you get to the that's, and by the time you're at a place 20 minutes down the road and you don't even know how the hell you got there. And so the intent of driving that conversation is to get to the core of what somebody needs. And doing that over the phone is a big challenge, because what's the statistics? 7% is words. I always mess up the other two.
45 is body language, 47, 45, 48 is tone.
So it's tone. Yeah. Okay. I thought it was physiology for some reason. Is that what Corinne says?
There might be there's different versions.
There's different variations of it.
I've heard the one that I'm familiar, the one that we use. There's two studies: tone, body language, and words.
Right.
But there's more. There's actually more things there's pitch. There's actually other things that happen with communication. So that's like, it's a simplified version, and there's probably other versions of that study that people have shared and used. But
I want to take a tiny pivot just to cover this before we wrap up. So obviously, 6 degrees connections, the power of connection, right? You and I met for coffee, and that led to so many things.
So many. Yep.
Joining 6 degrees, signing up for NLP, joining Maria's team. I'm wondering for you if there's a connection that comes to mind where you were the catalyst for that, right? Maybe it wasn't exactly the same as you and I sitting down, but a moment for you where, whether that was personal or business related, where there was a connection that you were able to provide and it led to something extraordinary for one or both of those people.
So are you asking for a specific example? Recently with 6 degrees, or
just in your life?
Oh, there's been a handful of people that I've introduced just by having them in the same room that are now married with kids. There's plenty of examples of peers that I've worked in the industry that were thinking of stepping out or not getting into the business, and giving them that courage to make the choice and to brave the storm and to fulfill their dream. When I was in Catholic school growing up, so I was part of a lot of youth ministry, campus ministry type stuff. And to this day, I still get messages from people about how I was able to make them feel more comfortable and confident to do what they're doing today. So can I pinpoint it being more a connection based, but more to how to get people out of their own head? As probably the quickest thing that comes to mind. I'm sure if I went through my LinkedIn, I could see that somebody got this job because, I introduced them to somebody, but nothing comes to mind. But what does come to mind is, as much as I had my own shit I was dealing with, I was still able to get others to get out of theirs. So I guess it's the, what's the way to say it? It's not coming to mind, but ultimately what you're trying to work on so much, you're able to benefit to others for.
Mm-hmm. Really just like the power of the support that you were able to be for other people, and how that is a connection, right? Even if it's like even internally within themselves that led to the path that they're currently on.
Yep. That's probably the best way I could put it.
Yeah, I heard it as us. You mentioned this earlier, just kind of being a sounding board.
Yeah.
And as someone that has kind of been there, done that in my own stuff, like, and just helping, being support in the moment for people that maybe that they don't even know they need it.
Yeah.
Right.
And really, I think because I'm so open, that there is a level I believe that I provided inspiration. Like for folks to be like, if he can do that and I know him, I can do it too in my own way, or whatever it is, or decide to say no or get out of that relationship, or, so I just, there's anything that I'd want to say that would put a feather in my cap when I'm being buried or put in the incinerator and my ashes passed around to my favorite places, it would be, was I able to set a good enough example where people can be more open with each other? I'd say that's, outside of raising a great kid and being a loving husband and a great friend and family member, that would be my stamp on the world.
I love that.
It's powerful work. Powerful place to operate from. That's where there's so much alignment with Rudy's work. Safe space, creating connection. That's all. And I don't even think we scratched the surface on what you came to for the 2-hour version of that part of it, right? I love that.
And it also, there was a time where I was like, I would never move back to California, but there was hesitation to even do what we did. But it's really become apparent that you have to be around people that want to talk about this stuff. There's other pockets and areas of our world, our country, that they're surrounded by birds of a feather. And so if they're not open to having these types of things and they're closed off, then that's what you're going to get.
Right.
So I feel like me being back in California where it's progressive thinking, love it or hate it with the taxes, at the end of the day, but there's a lot that comes out of here.
It's funny. I literally just watched a video within the last couple of days where this young woman, she said, because people say like you can't move away from your problems, and she was like, I'm calling bullshit right now. She moved from Atlanta to somewhere in Florida, and she said like she listed a whole laundry list of things that she's like, all of these things have improved because, to your point of being surrounded by the people, right? And so she found the people that she needs to be surrounded by. It wasn't necessarily the climate or whatever was the biggest impact. And at the same time, sometimes that is the biggest impact. Sometimes there's people who aren't made to survive the winters in certain places, or the places where the sun is hardly out throughout the entire year, and they really need to be surrounded by, the right type of people, environments, and everything else to be the perfect storm, because the makeup of all of our brains, the chemicals and everything that's going on internally, we're all different. And so I might not do well in whatever kind of space.
Well, yeah, not just even like the weather environment, but just like physical environment. Like you changed locations, but like that was actually sometimes changing the physical environment and making a shift is necessary.
100%.
Right?
Like my element is water, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're in the high desert, you don't have much water, right? Even though you get some precipitation and, there's reservoirs and whatnot, but the ions and the energy you get from the ocean is, every time I get out of there, I always call it my cleanse.
Yeah.
Did I realize I needed that more than ever? Not until I started doing it more and more. So
Sure.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so easy to just like, well, this is where I live, and this is I'm stuck for all these reasons, and it's like sometimes the shift is good.
Yeah, 100%.
Even like moving down the street,
Yeah.
right? Like there's so much history in space, right? There's energy that exists and all of it can just weigh and carry and be heavy.
Yeah, I mean, even just the place that we live in right now is the place that we've lived in the whole time that we've been in San Diego. And there's been a couple moments where Eric's like, I'm ready for a new space. And I think even just the breakthrough this year, Firehorse, the things that are happening, and it could even be that there's parts of the space that we're physically living in that are also contributing to potentially holding us, or, you know, it's part of the barrier. It's part of the, we need to break through that. We need to change this up.
Yeah. And
I'm the person that like every couple, probably once or twice a year, I'll just move the bed to a different side of the room. It's like, I can't move, so I'm going to try something different.
Yeah.
That's okay. And
Yeah.
that's, the psyche needs that.
Yeah. I need a little bit of change. And then Christina had like a control. I did it without telling her. She was like on like a weekend trip. She came back and like had this panic attack.
Well, it wasn't about the bed, but yes, it was.
I know it wasn't about the bed.
It was. Well, so this is deeply rooted in. So my mom and I moved around a lot. I've lived in 30 plus places, homes, apartments, whatever at this point. And sometimes it was something that happened without really even me, not consent. I was a child, but it would just happen, and it felt very maybe disruptive. I didn't recognize that in that time period, but then the moment that it was this whole thing. There was this really cute little like bench that we have, and I came home and things were just moved around, and almost to the point where I was like, "Are you getting rid of the yellow bench? What the fuck is going on in here?" And to me, I didn't realize until after I had calmed down and like felt like I could actually talk it out with Eric, I realized, this has everything to do with the moving piece and kind of the disruption of we're getting rid of everything and starting off new, and not knowing that was tied to that so deeply. And then, okay, now I know if I walk into a situation that things are moved around and shifted, that I don't need to react that way. I know where that comes from.
There's a lot of learning for both of us. Like there's a lot of control tied to that for Christina.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's why I love Halloween and Christmas, because I'm just able to redecorate, just to change it up and go into a different world, with it. And I equally have the same issue, where it's like, let me just move this over here.
Yeah.
Let me put this on this wall, but it doesn't match or make sense.
Do you leave Christmas lights up? Longer, yeah.
Okay.
Not surprising.
Yep.
Me too. I'll leave them up a little bit longer than they're supposed to stay up.
Yep.
All right. Well, it feels like we're winding down. I'm noticing time-wise, but just I think as a reinforcement, what's the takeaway from this conversation? What's the headline?
Well, I would say on my side, I love that you guys are interested genuinely, and I think that really should be the headline for anybody considering Six at the end of the day, because so much of what most entrepreneurs, sales-driven minds go through every day is transactional. And coming into this, I didn't know how this conversation was going to go, and that's how you guys really teed it up, and that's great. I loved it.
Not great for everyone. That is what we've learned.
Fair enough. But given the industry I'm in, that's what I tend to talk about the most in these types of settings, and to be able to just be authentic, raw, and who I am, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be more of that. And so the safe space that you guys are creating is can be uncomfortable for some, but I think pined by many. So
I don't think we've had many people come on and after the fact go, "Oh, that was awful," or like that was right. It's usually a really like, "Oh, this was great."
Yeah.
Right. This was it was so much different than kind of whatever the expectation was around
Right.
it being stressful or not knowing or the lack of whatever instruction or questions or whatever. So thank you.
Of course, it gives you guys a real genuine opportunity to get to know your base.
That's our favorite.
So I'm seeing it's connecting. I'm connecting the dots.
That's our favorite part of it.
It is my favorite. It's like, there's so many things I get to learn about every single member of Six Degrees. My biggest takeaway is just the aha around male postpartum. Like that's truthfully, like I just haven't even seen that being talked about in any capacity. And I think it's really important that we do, because you're definitely not the only person who's ever experienced it. And how can we continue to create the spaces for men to actually be able to share emotions? And yeah, just what a better place the world could potentially be if we can all be that vulnerable with each other.
Not bottle it up.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was sitting. I just loved what you said about like the stamp I want to leave is helping leading by example and sharing more openly than I used to, or people are comfortable with, but being who I am, and in a way that hopefully this allows people to do that, or invites people to do that, or gives someone an opportunity, like this is okay to do that, right? And rather than trying to like hold it all in and hide it, right? I think that's noble. I think it's really powerful, and it's something that as men it doesn't happen as much. I'm just as guilty of holding my own stuff in and bottling it all up, and I try to, as much as I am aware, again, the gift and the curse of being aware and conscious, I think sometimes it eats me from the inside, and
there's still many moments that I have too.
Where it's
not all
the
raw.
human. It's the human part, right? And that's what I'm really appreciate you coming on here and sharing. And some of this we've heard from conversations we've had, and we got to go a little bit deeper. So I'm appreciative of that. And I know 6 Degrees is new. It's still only been a couple months ish. And
I've lost track. When did we meet? I don't even remember.
We met like first or second week of February.
Yeah.
Gosh, but it's wow.
I know.
That's crazy, which is crazy. That's so just so much. So, and then the other thing that I'm sitting with him, so like it's such a small window. I'm very conscious of like when I meet someone, like I only know like this little sliver of what you've and what you've shared, right? Like there's a bunch of things that again people don't say, or it's the story that they want to share, right? And then so the other side of that is I'm super excited to just kind of have a front row seat on your journey as the NLP stuff comes into play and practice, and you to experience more of what we're doing with conscious communication and Rudy's work, and how those two things really tie together really beautifully. And you can ask Corinne about that part of it. She's been to some labs with Rudy, and I think there's a lot of just for even her of like light bulbs is like, oh, like, well, this is this version for NLP, and this thing actually makes this tighter, or right, there's all these other like connected dots, right? Because the conscious communication stuff is really like this living, breathing how I operate, right? And the NLP is this rewiring of my brain to help me kind of be in the right place, right? Yeah, to navigate the world. Yeah, right. Yeah.
One little nugget I just want to leave everybody and the listeners, with is that your unconscious, which is 90% of how you operate, it's your operating manual that you have full control to change, and it reacts. It doesn't know how to react emotionally. So what you put in negatively, it's gonna react negatively. What you put in positively, it's gonna react positively. So you have full control of your life more than you know.
Love it.
And that's the work. That's the NLP work that you're doing. Yep.
Amazing.
Still sucks sometimes, but
yeah.
But I can impact it. I can influence it. Yeah.
But thank you guys for the opportunity. This was great.
Thanks for coming.
Of course.
This was fun.
Of course.
Deep diving Dan.
I'm trying to pinpoint why this thought came up in my mind during our conversation. Dan was who I sat next to during one of our success labs, and it was how to quiet the inner critic. To Dan's credit and how he said that he wants to leave the world of really creating a safe space for people, right? And being somebody that others can be vulnerable around. And I very much feel that he creates that space. I remember telling you that after him and I got coffee, I literally left that coffee and was so present with more of the world and like nature. Like I remember like looking at the trees around me and just everything around me and thinking and trying to just soak that in more. So his presence very, very much does that. And so I felt very open to sharing even just during that inner critic workshop and talking about appearance being such a big part of my identity growing up and my experiences growing up. And so then to take this a step further into why I had this like, oh, I wanted to talk about that. There was a podcast, video, something that I listened to that was placing appearance and safety together in a way that clicked for me that had never clicked before. So this deeply rooted importance of appearance for me, the way that I absorbed the world around me and things that I was being told, things that even just nicknames and whatever people were complimenting me on, like so much of these things that were being told to me, or so much of what I was absorbing, had to do with my physical appearance. And so there was this level of, oh, my future, my safety, the way that I'm going to make it in this world is through physical appearance. And I connected those dots recently, and I thought, holy shit, no wonder this is weighted so much for me, is because that was the pathway to safety in my mind.
Say that again, then, just so I make sure I'm following. So your pathway to safety in this world is your physical appearance?
That's
what does that mean?
I have to be pretty in order to be successful. I have to be pretty in order to create the safety for myself that I need, whether that's money, whether that's the person that I end up being with for the rest of my life, whether that's just getting by in life. That's how it was rooted.
You are pretty though.
Thank you. And but I guess I'm trying to get to like, that's where like the body dysmorphia comes from. That's where the noise comes from. On this podcast, so Dan was recording it. Mm-hmm. The amount of times that I was thinking about the way that I'm showing up on that camera that's recording me, it was constant. I readjust a lot because I'm just uncomfortable, but like I readjust myself and my body and my clothes in so many times throughout the day, because my mind goes like, oh, how does this look right now? Oh, like what is,
sure.
It's all the time. This is noise that's happening.
I'm definitely more sensitive, or it's on a higher, antennas are up a little bit more when there's cameras. Like, oh, I just touched my face again. How many times have I done that?
Okay.
It's less for me. Yeah. It's less about like, oh, how do I look? Like I don't even know like the angle, or if like my beard is just like crazy, or like in what was recorded.
Sure. You're aware of how many times you're probably like you just said, like I touched my face or whatever. My noise is like, what do I look like right now? Mm-hmm. And so all that to say, I think it's rooted in this like safety mentality. And then I also, like, when I was exploring this in my mind, I was like, well, and double-edged sword in that regards as well, because that also can lead to physical abuse and things that women and humans, right? The things that can happen to people that are negative and that are unsafe.
Well, sure. I could argue, if I'm very much devil's advocate, but the prettier you are, the more unsafe you are in this world, potentially more of a target, more people are attracted to right? Like if I'm right,
potentially, right?
I don't know that I'm trying to be cautious of how I'm saying that, but because I don't want it to land the wrong way. But it's the prettier girl walking alone by herself at night is a bigger target than like me.
Yeah, I know, and I hear you. I experienced both sides of that, right? I experienced there was pretty traumatic negative things that happened, and like for whatever reason, it just really resonated with me of like, why is this so important? Why is this so loud? Why is this what's happening in my brain in such a capacity? And the framing of the safety piece, it was just an aha moment for me.
Yeah, I guess to dig into it a little bit so what is it about, I don't know, your appearance, I'll just say your appearance, that makes you feel unsafe?
No. Well, okay, sorry.
When it's not the way that you want it to be, like, why is...
Because now it's like, it's more about like the pathway to success, right? And pretty people get to the success, right? The making enough money and making, so it's, okay, so the path to the success equals money, and money equals safety.
Okay. You skipped a couple steps. I hear that differently now.
Oh. Okay.
So my appearance is here's how I'm hearing it now, is my appearance is a stepping stone to safety. It's one of these things that one of the beliefs that I had is like, if I'm pretty, I become successful. If I'm successful, I'm going to make money. If I make money, I'm going to have enough money to do what I want to do and be safe.
Yep.
Got it.
Yes.
I heard that very differently from the beginning of this conversation.
Maybe I wasn't clear enough from the beginning of this conversation.
Like the way it started was like, I have to be pretty to feel safe. That's a big jump to... Got
it. Right. It's like, what, like, why is that? What, like,
which is why I asked, like, why are you unsafe? And it has nothing to do with feeling unsafe when you're not.
When I don't feel pretty,
when your appearance is not the way you want it to
also, be. I just want to say this right now, like, please, for the love of God, for anyone listening, like, don't come and like, oh my God, but Christina, you're so, like, it's not about that, because like, people can tell me that all day, every day, and the work is internal. It's all internal. It's all in my head, and it's all about stop comparing and all this other shit. So it's not even about that. This is not a conversation that I'm airing out to the public for fishing for compliments from the world, like 100,000% no.
Yeah, it's actually negative. I cut you off and it didn't make
What's negative?
It can have a negative impact.
For people to...
You're so pretty. Like, why are you thinking that way?
Right. When it's in that context, it actually sucks.
Yeah.
If I say something and it's like not feeling pretty or whatever, in that moment, someone telling me that I'm just like, okay, thanks.
And I'm very aware that I did it 3 minutes ago.
You did.
So this is the drama triangle in real life, and me just wanting to rescue. And so, like, Christina, you are pretty. Like, right? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. I know.
Yeah. In this moment, that doesn't mean shit. In the moment where it's like an organic whatever, and it just is the thought that I thought about the person, and I say it out loud, like, those are the moments I'm like, oh, like, thanks, because it's something that you just thought of, not something that was prompted by something else, right? The other day, I saw somebody who was wearing an outfit that I was obsessed. First, I just saw the coat and I was like, oh my God, that coat's amazing. And then she turns around and I see her whole outfit, and I'm sitting in this cafe. She's not that far away from me, but if I wanted to say anything, I had to physically get up out of my seat and go say something. And the mental game that I played in my head of, oh, does that person even want to hear that? And like, that's weird. And I have to get up and go do the thing. And I did, because I thought, well, I would be like, if someone came up and was like, dude, I love your outfit. I'm like, oh, thank you. What a cool thing to hear from a stranger in a cafe. And what did I actually take away from me at all in my day? Like, nothing, right? Like, there was no...
But other than like the whole internal monologue and debate of, do I do it? Do I not do it? Is it weird?
Like,
is it crazy?
How silly, to even like debate going up to a stranger and saying that. I mean, I guess I will say, again, going back to safety and the negatives of this like double-edged sword safety thought process of being pretty or whatever, and going up to strangers, there's a risk, I guess, in the way that we approach humans in the wild. and that's part of it. Is, did I make that person uncomfortable by approaching them?
Well, so much of the conversation that we had around with Dan was, so part of him wanting to do the NLP training is to help to be vulnerable and to be like connect with people and can I get to a certain level with someone in 5 minutes, right? Can I open up and not overshare and do it in a way that it feels authentic and is real and isn't scripted and like all of this stuff? And there's I think just from the conversation we had with him, there's some NLP, there's kind of like this framework that I can use, right? Which is, again, we talked about like the dark side of conscious communication and just being awake and aware. There's a fine line between steering things and manipulating, right? Like my reaction, like in my head as you're describing, it's like if I was just in the coffee shop on the other side of it, just like watching you just like look at it, see a girl, love her coat, and then just like see like the internal, because I can picture you just kind of sitting there like, do I do it? Do I not do it? How do I, and then just like something like just watch you go up, say something, and then just go sit down. Very entertaining, people watching. And if I put myself in like that woman's shoes, if you just came up to me, said something that was nice, and then just sat down and like looked up back at me and smiled and be like, the fuck was that? What do you want from me? Or like, what is the universe trying to tell me? So
sure.
The risk is like
you added like I sat back down, looked up at her and smiled. Like there was no even eye contact after that.
Well, depending on where the time in the order, like did she already order her drink? Was she waiting for her drink? Did she like grab it on the way out? And maybe you said I did the thing and then I put my head down, but maybe she like walked by and was like, oh, that was really nice.
Yeah.
Why did she do that?
Yeah.
Right. And you probably made it like for some people, like you made her day. For some people, like I would chew on that and be like, this fucking moment happened in my life. Why the fuck did that happen the way it happened?
It's just like so bizarre.
The other part of this conversation, even when we talked about Dan and the work he's doing, is it's the internal. How am I internalizing the external factors that are happening, right? If I'm the person who needs the compliments, it's asking like, why do I need the compliments?
Right.
If I need to make sure that I look pretty in every moment, and how do I understand how that's actually leading to what you connected to, which is a few dots down the road of safety. But it's understanding that so that when someone does say something, it doesn't turn into like, ooh, I need more of that. Yeah. It's a dopamine hit. It's the same hit that I get on my phone.
Yep.
And with the likes and all this stuff. I mean, we've talked about even in this business, you said something one time where it was like, anyone's like first couple of years in business is just their ego. Right. And so when someone tells us like, oh, you guys are so great at what you do, how do I get better at removing myself from that? Feels nice. And I don't know that I'm fishing for it or that I need it. And what does it make me do more of? Because I get it.
Right.
Does a external response, an external comment create habit behavior or me to take action? I need to be really, really careful of that.
Yeah.
And at least question it. Most of us don't do that. And I'm like, even as I'm talking, I'm like, I probably need to sit with that a little bit more.
Well, because what that makes me think of is the people who have graduated 6 degrees and have said, I love everything that you guys are doing. You guys are so great. I love you guys. And I'm going to part ways. And back to the ego, like that's the piece that it's hitting. It's hitting the ego. And if I remove myself out of that and really tried to come from a place of understanding of that person and that person's needs and their perspective, their experience, their whatever, and it's like, oh, maybe this just wasn't the right thing for them in this moment. Or maybe even to go a step further, was my ego in the way of saying yes to this person joining when truthfully that person might not have been in the best alignment for what we know that we can actually provide, right? So that's not the case for every single person. Everyone's different. And yeah, how does ego come into play when somebody graduates 6 degrees?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely make it about me. But more like just more of the tape that plays in my head, which I've shared more recently. The two loops are like, I'm not good enough and it's all my fault. So it's like if I hear I'm moving on, or like the first thing is what could we have done better for you to not feel that way. Right. And yeah, that's the behavior of, or the action of not continuing to be part of means like there's something to me, like is like there's something missing and it's because of us.
Right. And it literally has nothing to do with us.
Which probably isn't a true statement.
Right. Right.
All the time.
All the time. Could there have been somebody who has graduated that it was because I fucking hate Eric and Christina? Like, sure, that's 1000% a possibility. And then again, though, like if I want to strip,
it's never about being like the liked part for me.
What do you mean? You're in the people pleasing loop.
There's a people pleasing part of it. If someone literally told me like you and Christina are awful human beings, I would literally laugh at it and go, "Thank you so much." You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I know who I am. So when someone's like, "You guys are so great," or it's just like, "I love like your heart," or "I love like this," it's like I know, like I feel like I'm a good one. Like that part. There's literally nothing that you could tell me that's going to shake that belief of the way that I operate in the world.
Okay,
if that makes
so
sense.
it doesn't, maybe it's not necessarily, okay, so it could just, what if it was like, well, I just really was turned off by the way that Eric or Christina did X with the business, or they made this pivot or whatever the thing is, and they name it that way. Like, it's not necessarily, I think they're a bad person. It was an experience. And then in that moment, it gets caught in like, what could I have done different?
I think it's, for me, anytime that's happened, it's more of like, did we set expectations? The challenge of like that I've sat with around, and we've gotten, again, positive feedback on like, you guys change stuff, you listen, you make adjustments, you try things and you experiment. And the flip of that for me is like, does someone sign up for one thing and they thought it was one thing, and then because we're constantly evolving, is it different than the expectations? And that's the part where I put myself at fault, or put us at fault.
Yeah.
Around like, oh, this is different than what you like, and it feels like in a not positive way. This is different than what you thought, because it continues to evolve or continues to change, or because we don't have things dialed in as much as we want, or X, Y, and Z, like whatever the thing is. That's where my head goes more of, is this, because the other part of this is like, did you get what you need out of it? And there's plenty of like, oh yeah, like I did you, and that's where like getting clear around, no matter what amount of time you're part of this, if the goal for us is, can I help you get one deep, meaningful relationship, that someone that you can call at 2 a.m. that's not in your business, that's not a significant other, it's not a family member, can we help that can we have that be the goal?
Yeah.
That makes it, and that's more of what we've talked about lately, of like, so when we talk about relationships and being a relationship development organization to help people do that, if we have that outlined, then it becomes black and white. Did you get that? Did you get close to that or not? And if you did or didn't, then all of this other conversation that's happening around like, well, it wasn't good enough, or we could have done this different, or second guess this. Right. I think because the outcome, it's kind of it's been an arbitrary outcome.
Right.
It's like, oh shit, okay, now I'm beating myself up, or I'm questioning things because I don't know. I'm making up the story that you're leaving, and you're going to be really nice on the way out, or you do. I do genuinely believe most people that say like, oh, you guys like really love what you guys are doing. Like I feel that it's not doesn't feel fake or anything, and at the same time, it's just like, but you're leaving. So what's wrong?
Right. You go to what's wrong versus they have gotten exactly what they wanted and what they needed from what we've done, and they're ready to move to somewhere else and explore something different.
In the fucking moment of this conversation that we just had with Dan and what you talked about with the safety, as mine is probably, there's an abandonment thing with my parents splitting. And this isn't new for me necessarily, but like, I will typically, I have had a habit to stay in relationships longer than I know I'm supposed to. Jobs, I've stayed at jobs longer. I've stayed in relationships longer. So it's probably tied to that more than people pleasing in this instance. The abandonment part, or this is done piece, is not a comfortable place. And again, like, and for anyone that's been part of it, it's more of like a thank you for getting to help us get to where we got. And
oh my God, yeah.
all this stuff. Like there's no ill will. It's just more of like, like anytime this has happened, I'm holding up the mirror and going like,
yeah,
fuck.
We get to, that's the thing about it, is like, we get to learn with every single one of these experiences. Any person who has left, and with any person who has joined, with any person, like any single person, we get to learn from that with, holding up the mirror and trying to understand when that rejection or whatever, when that comes up in any scenario, and for sales, for anything, literally anything. It's like, oh, okay, great. What part of this?
Fear of rejection is probably there's a thing for me that I don't know that I've spent enough time exploring.
Yeah.
There's a part of whatever of the analogy of reorganizing your closet and clearing stuff out, and there's a door that I haven't opened. Maybe
it's like the junk drawer or like the junk closet.
Yeah.
It's still
some of the work I've done is it might have just got funneled into that.
Yeah.
That room,
it's like, we're
that
not going to open that door.
Box, whatever.
We're just going to keep shoving it in there.
Whatever it is. Interesting.
Well, and I mean, that probably has a lot to do with the cycle of depression and the times that door maybe gets cracked open a little bit, and it's there's so much built up. There's so much that's like just being shoved over there. And then the moment that it comes falling out of that closet, it comes falling out. And then there's so many things now that I'm overwhelmed, and I'm going to.
Yeah, it's all connected for sure.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oof. See, this is why I like talking to Dan, because we're gonna talk about some deep shit.
Yeah, got me thinking right now. Huh.
Well, on that note, do a good old put her there, bub.
Yeah. Put her there, bub. I guess.